Welcome back, everyone. Today we are diving into a massive turning point in mutant history. We are tracking the original 5 X-Men as they move through the late 1960s, an era defined by high-stakes conspiracies, cosmic dimensions, and the team finally finding their own individual identities. We will witness the introduction of the legendary Banshee, the tragic redemption of the Mimic, and a desperate struggle against the unstoppable Juggernaut that requires the help of the Sorcerer Supreme himself. We'll also look at a pivotal secret history from Canada that reveals how Logan was first found and rehabilitated by James Hudson. Finally, we'll see a historic clash with Magneto that changes the roster of the Avengers forever. Let's head to Ireland and start our recap with issue 28. In Uncanny X-Men issue 28, titled, The Wail of the Banshee, the story begins with the X-Men attempting to enjoy some rare downtime, but Professor Xavier detects a powerful and unfamiliar mutant signature in Ireland. He dispatches the team to Investigation Cassidy Keep. Upon arriving, the X-Men are met with a devastating sonic scream that nearly incapacitates the entire team simultaneously. This brings us to the introduction of Sean Cassidy, better known as the Banshee. Sean is an Irish mutant who possesses the unique ability to generate powerful sonic screams. His vocal cords and throat are mutated to produce a wide range of acoustic effects, including concussive blasts that can shatter solid steel and the ability to fly by projecting sound waves against the ground to create lift. Beyond his offensive capabilities, his sonic sense allows him to perceive his surroundings like sonar. Introduced initially as an unwilling antagonist, Sean is actually a man of great honor and a former agent of Interpol. He carries the heavy burden of his family's history and is characterized by his boisterous personality and deep loyalty. His debut marks the start of a long-standing relationship with the X-Men. The team soon realizes that the Banshee is being forced into a life of crime by a mysterious villain known only as the Ogre. The Ogre is a brilliant but twisted scientific genius who serves as a high-level operative for the mysterious organization Factor 3. Unlike many adversaries, the Ogre does not possess natural superhuman powers. Instead, he relies on his mastery of advanced technology, ranging from mental control headbands to sophisticated weaponry and jetpacks. He is a master of manipulation, specializing in coercing mutants into serving his interests through blackmail or technological dampeners. The Ogre is defined by his lack of ethics and his cold, calculating approach to combat. The Ogre uses a specialized headband to control Sean's nervous system, effectively turning his sonic powers into a weapon for theft. The X-Men find themselves in a complex tactical battle inside the castle's ramparts. They aren't just fighting a mutant, they are fighting the Ogre's advanced surveillance and the Banshee's overwhelming acoustic attacks. Beast and Iceman attempt a flanking maneuver through the dungeons, while Cyclops tries to find a clear shot at the control device without hitting Sean. During the climax of the fight, Professor Xavier provides mental support from afar. Through a coordinated effort, Cyclops delivers a pinpoint optic blast that destroys the control headband. Freed from his servitude, Banshee is disoriented but deeply grateful. The Ogre attempts to escape using a high-powered jetpack, but the X-Men manage to ground him. Before being captured, the Ogre cryptically warns them that Factor 3 is just beginning its mission. The issue ends with the X-Men returning Sean to his home. In Uncanny X-Men issue 29, titled, The Super-Adaptoid, tension within the team reaches a boiling point as Calvin Rankin, the Mimic, continues to struggle with his place. While he has been acting as a member, his arrogance caused constant friction. The issue takes a dangerous turn when the Super-Adaptoid, a powerful android originally created by AIM, targets the X-Mansion. This marks the introduction of the Super-Adaptoid. The Super-Adaptoid is one of the most dangerous artificial intelligences in the Marvel Universe. Originally constructed by AIM, its body is composed of unstable molecules and life model technology that allows it to copy and replicate the powers, weapons, and fighting styles of anyone it observes within a specific range. It can even replicate complex items like Captain America's shield. The Adaptoid is characterized by its cold, relentless programming and its lack of morality, viewing sentient beings only as data points to be mimicked. Its primary limitation is that it can be overwhelmed by highly complex power signatures. The Super-Adaptoid has been upgraded and arrives at the school, viewing the mutants as the perfect test subjects. The battle is one of the most difficult the original 5 have ever faced. The android manifests the powers of the Avengers, while simultaneously copying the X-Men's own abilities. Cyclops realizes that they cannot win through raw power alone, as the android simply adapts to every energy blast. Mimic, desperate to prove he is the most powerful X-Man, ignores Scott's orders and charges the android alone. This reckless move nearly ends in disaster as the Adaptoid copies Calvin's mimicry ability, creating a dangerous power loop. Professor Xavier telepathically guides the team to use a sensory overload strategy. In a shocking and selfless turn, the Mimic makes a final stand to protect his teammates. He uses his powers to drain the energy of the android, but the feedback is too much. The resulting explosion short-circuits the Super-Adaptoid, rendering it inert. However, the cost is high. Calvin survives, but the strain has permanently stripped him of his powers. Having finally learned the meaning of heroism, a now powerless Calvin leaves the school to find a normal life. In Uncanny X-Men issue 30, titled, The Warlock, the story takes a sharp turn into the realm of the supernatural. The X-Men are alerted to strange disturbances in a remote forest, where they discover a magically shielded castle belonging to a man who calls himself Merlin. The antagonist of this issue is the Warlock. He is a mutant who adopted the identity of the legendary Merlin to exploit human superstition. Born centuries ago, his primary mutation is psionic molecular manipulation, which allows him to rearrange matter at will and create hyper-realistic illusions. He views himself as a superior being destined to rule humanity and sees modern mutants as unrefined children. Characterized by his arrogance and theatrical cruelty, the Warlock represents the danger of those who use their gifts to recreate the past. His reliance on machinery to augment his natural lifespan provides a critical vulnerability that separates him from natural evolution. Merlin views the modern world as a chaotic mess that he must order through absolute rule. The X-Men find that their scientific training is ill-equipped to handle Merlin's illusions. He traps the team in a psychic labyrinth where they are forced to face their deepest fears. Cyclops sees a world where his eyes destroy everything he loves, while Jean is overwhelmed by the voices of a billion people. The Warlock uses his ability to rearrange matter to create stone guardians that are immune to Iceman's freezing. Professor Xavier realizes that he must enter the fray directly to save his students. He engages Merlin in a brutal psychic duel that spans the astral plane. Xavier eventually realizes that Merlin's power is tied to the machinery in his castle. He telepathically instructs the X-Men to target the power core. Despite the illusions, the team manages to find the center of the facility. Cyclops unleashes a full-force optic blast that shatters the core. Without his power source, Merlin's physical form rapidly ages, and he is forced back into his stasis chamber. The X-Men leave the crumbling castle, reminded that mutation has existed in many forms throughout history. In Uncanny X-Men issue 31, titled, The Cobalt Man, the team faces a threat that is a dark reflection of Iron Man. The story introduces Ralph Roberts, a brilliant scientist who has built a suit of armor powered by unstable cobalt radiation. This introduces Ralph Roberts, the Cobalt Man. Ralph is a brilliant research scientist whose obsession with nuclear energy led him to create the Cobalt Man armor. Unlike many of the X-Men's foes, Roberts is not a mutant. His power is entirely derived from his exoskeleton, which grants him immense strength and radioactive energy beams. Ralph is driven by a deep-seated inferiority complex and a desire to prove that human ingenuity can surpass the accidents of mutation. His armor is both his greatest achievement and his greatest curse, as the radiation it generates is inherently unstable and harmful to both the pilot and everyone around them. He represents the hazardous intersection of scientific ambition and human pride. Ralph intends to humiliate the X-Men to prove his own worth to his brother, Ted Roberts. The team is caught off guard by the sheer destructive potential of the cobalt blasts, which can melt Iceman structures instantly. The battle moves to an industrial shipping yard, where Cobalt Man uses the heavy machinery as weapons. The X-Men are forced to work in perfect synchronization just to stay alive. Cyclops tries to find a weak point in the armor, but Ralph has designed it to be nearly impenetrable. The radiation levels are also a major concern, as the team risks lethal poisoning by staying too close. Beast attempts a daring maneuver to climb onto the suit, but Ralph's automated defenses nearly crush him. During the fight, Jean Grey's telekinesis proves to be the deciding factor. She realizes that Ralph's armor has a critical flaw in its stabilization gyros. She focuses her mental power to hold the joints in place, giving Cyclops the opening he needs to deliver a pinpoint blast. The suit shuts down, and Ralph is extracted, sickly from the radiation. The X-Men secure the armor and ensure Ralph receives medical attention, but they are left with a sobering reminder of human hatred. In Uncanny X-Men issue 32, titled, Beware the Juggernaut, Cain Marko returns to the X-Mansion. Having been trapped in another dimension, Juggernaut has finally found a way to punch back into our reality through sheer force of will. The story begins with localized tremors that Professor Xavier identifies as the approach of his stepbrother. The team prepares for a siege, knowing that their previous victory relied on the removal of Cain's helmet. However, Juggernaut has learned from his defeat and has magically fused his helmet to his armor, making it impossible to remove by physical force. The fight is a one-sided slaughter. Juggernaut smashes through the mansion's reinforced walls as if they were paper. Cyclops unleashes a full-intensity blast that would level a skyscraper, but Cain just keeps walking. The physical toll on the X-Men is immense. Beast is sidelined with a broken arm, and Iceman is exhausted. Xavier realizes that the only way to stop Cain is through a psychic attack, but the helmet remains a perfect shield. The professor is forced to go into a deep meditative state to find a spiritual vulnerability in the magic of Cyttorak. The battle moves to the mansion's lower levels. Angel and Jean try to use the environment to bury Cain under tons of earth, but he simply erupts from the debris. The situation looks hopeless until Xavier discovers a psychic leak in the armor's energy signature. He telepathically coordinates the X-Men to strike specific points simultaneously. The issue ends on a massive cliffhanger as the explosion of energy causes a rift to open. Instead of defeating Cain, the entire team, along with the Juggernaut, is sucked into a swirling vortex of crimson energy, leaving the mansion empty and in ruins. In Uncanny X-Men issue 33, titled, Into the Crimson Cosmos, the X-Men find themselves in the home dimension of the entity Cyttorak. Professor Xavier realizes he needs the help of the Sorcerer Supreme to navigate this mystical realm and save his students. While the X-Men are busy trying to survive the environment where the laws of physics are distorted, Xavier uses his astral form to contact Doctor Strange. This team-up between the world's most powerful telepath and its greatest sorcerer is a visual and narrative treat. Inside the Crimson Cosmos, the X-Men face a version of the Juggernaut that is even more powerful than before. In this realm, Cain Marko is a god. He can reshape the environment to suit his whims, creating endless traps. The team is forced to rely on their individual growth to survive. Jean Grey begins to tap into a deeper level of her telepathic potential, shielding her teammates' minds from the cosmic madness. Meanwhile, Iceman discovers that his freezing powers work differently here, allowing him to create absolute zero structures that can harm the Juggernaut's physical form. They are fighting to prevent Cyttorak from using Cain as a doorway to invade Earth. Doctor Strange provides Xavier with the Crimson Crystal, a mystical artifact that can neutralize the power of the Juggernaut's gem. In a climactic and desperate charge, the team works as a singular machine. Angel provides the distraction, while Jean uses her telekinesis to launch the crystal directly into the chest of Juggernaut's armor. The resulting mystical surge shatters the connection between Cain and his god. The Crimson Cosmos begins to expel the intruders. The X-Men and Juggernaut are thrown back into our reality, but Cain is left catatonic. The issue ends with the X-Men standing in the wreckage of their home, exhausted but victorious. In Uncanny X-Men issue 34, titled, The War Under the World, the X-Men are dragged into a subterranean conflict. The story begins with a series of massive sinkholes swallowing buildings in major cities. The team tracks the source to the underground kingdom of the Mole Man. However, things are more complicated than a simple monster attack. The Mole Man is engaged in a civil war with Tyrannus. This issue introduces Tyrannus. He is an ancient and immortal ruler of a subterranean kingdom, originally a sorcerer from the Roman Empire who was exiled to the depths of the earth. Through the discovery of advanced technology left behind by a race of deviants, he has maintained his life for centuries. Tyrannus is a master of mental manipulation and high-tech weaponry, ruling over his army of semi-men with an iron fist. He is characterized by his immense vanity and his burning desire to conquer the surface world. Unlike the Mole Man, who seeks isolation, Tyrannus is a conqueror who views humanity as primitive. His rivalry with the Mole Man is legendary, and he represents the danger of ancient secrets and absolute power. The X-Men are captured by Tyrannus's semi-men and taken to his Golden City, where they are forced to participate in gladiatorial games. The issue focuses on the team's resilience when stripped of their gadgets. Tyrannus uses a wool-draining raid to keep the mutants compliant, but the X-Men's training allows them to resist. We see Beast using his brute strength and agility to survive the arena, while Iceman has to get creative with limited moisture. The Mole Man eventually approaches the X-Men, proposing an alliance to take down Tyrannus. The mutants are hesitant to trust him, but they realize that Tyrannus's plan to collapse the surface world is a greater threat. The battle in the underground city is spectacular. Cyclops engages Tyrannus directly, whose energy staff proves to be a match for his optic blasts. In the chaos, the Mole Man uses his giant monsters to breach the city walls. They manage to sabotage the central pillar of the city and escape just as the two villains' armies clash in the ruins. They emerge on the surface, realizing that the world beneath their feet is just as dangerous as the world of men. In Uncanny X-Men issue 35, titled, "Along Came a Spider," the mystery of Factor 3 begins to unravel. This issue features a historic team-up with Spider-Man. The story kicks off with a series of high-profile kidnappings involving military officials and scientists. The X-Men are investigating these disappearances when they cross paths with the web-slinger in the streets of New York. In typical Silver Age fashion, a misunderstanding leads to a brief but exciting skirmish between Spidey and the X-Men before they realize they are all hunting the same target. They discover a secret base hidden in a waterfront warehouse, operated by agents of Factor 3. The issue provides more clues about the organization's structure. Factor 3 claims to represent a third force in the world, distinct from the American and Soviet blocs, intending to use mutant power to rule the globe for the sake of order. The X-Men and Spider-Man infiltrate the warehouse, but they are met by a group of highly trained human mercenaries equipped with anti-mutant technology. The battle is a showcase of different power sets working together. We see Spider-Man using his agility to weave through the X-Men's attacks, while Jean Grey coordinates their movements telepathically to ensure Spidey isn't hit by a stray optic blast. During the raid, they find a holographic message from the Mutant Master, the leader of Factor 3. He mocks the X-Men for serving a world that hates them and invites them to join him. Spider-Man helps the team evacuate the kidnapped scientists just in time. The issue ends with the X-Men and Spidey parting as friends, though the professor warns his students that the challenge posed by Factor 3 is a battle of ideologies. In Uncanny X-Men issue 36, titled, Meccano, the team faces a villain who is a direct indictment of the wealthy and privileged. The story introduces a young man named Tom Warren, who calls himself Meccano. Tom Warren, known as Meccano, is a young man whose path to villainy is paved with privilege and resentment. As the heir to a vast industrial fortune, Tom spent his life feeling alienated from his distant father. This emotional vacuum led him to use his family's resources to construct the Meccano exoskeleton, a suit of high-tech armor that grants him immense superhuman strength and offensive energy weapons. Meccano is not a mutant, he is a product of wealth and technology. He is defined by his emotional instability and his desperate need to be noticed by a world he feels has ignored him. Tom does not have a grand plan for world domination. He is a figure acting out his internal pain. His brief career serves as a cautionary tale for the X-Men about the dangers of unchecked resources in the hands of the emotionally broken. Tom builds a massive exoskeleton and decides to rob his father's own banks and corporate offices as a form of rebellion. The X-Men are called in when Meccano takes a group of socialites hostage during a charity gala. The battle is unique because the X-Men are essentially fighting a high-tech tantrum. Meccano's suit is powerful but poorly controlled, making him unpredictable and dangerous. He lacks the discipline of a trained combatant, leading to collateral damage. Beast and Angel focus on rescuing the hostages, while Cyclops and Iceman try to disable the suit's joints. Professor Xavier monitors the situation and realizes that Tom is suffering from a deep psychological break. The climax occurs at the Warren family's skyscraper, where Meccano attempts to level the building in a fit of rage. The X-Men have to use their powers to reinforce the structure while simultaneously dismantling the suit. Iceman creates a massive pillar of ice to support the collapsing floors, while Jean uses her telekinesis to pull the pilot from the suit's core. In the end, the suit is destroyed, and Tom is left sobbing in the ruins. In Uncanny X-Men issue 37, titled, The Mutant Master, the Factor 3 saga reaches its penultimate chapter. The team track the organization to its hidden base in Central Europe, where they are captured almost immediately by the Mutant Master's inner circle. This brings us to the introduction of the Mutant Master. The Mutant Master is the enigmatic leader of Factor 3. For months, he operated from the shadows, manipulating both heroes and villains into believing he was the ultimate mutant savior. He united various mutant criminals, promising them a world where Homo superior would reign supreme. However, his true nature is far more sinister. The Mutant Master is actually a member of a nameless alien race who came to Earth to incite a nuclear war between humans and mutants. By causing the extinction of Earth's dominant species, he intended to pave the way for an invasion by his people. He possesses vast psionic abilities and is a creature of pure deception. His introduction shows the X-Men that the mutant struggle can be co-opted by outside forces who do not have the interests of mutants at heart. This issue reintroduces several mutant villains who have been recruited by Factor 3. The Vanisher, the Blob, Eunice the Untouchable, and Mastermind. The X-Men are put on trial by the Mutant Master, who claims that humanity is planning a nuclear strike to eliminate all mutants. The issue is heavy on psychological warfare. Mastermind uses his illusions to make the X-Men doubt their mission and the Professor's teachings. Meanwhile, the Professor is kept in a mental dampening field, unable to reach his students. The tension within the team is palpable as they are forced to confront the very real possibility of mutant extinction. The Mutant Master himself remains a shadowed figure, speaking from behind a massive screen. The X-Men eventually manage to stage a breakout using a clever distraction by Iceman, who creates a cold fog to obscure their movements. A massive mutant-on-mutant brawl erupts in the base. The issue ends on a shocking note. The X-Men reach the inner sanctum and pull back the curtain, only to discover that the Mutant Master is an alien. In Uncanny X-Men issue 38, titled, The End of Factor 3, the storyline concludes in a desperate battle to prevent World War III. With the Mutant Master revealed as an alien infiltrator, the other mutant villains realize they have been used as pawns in a plot that would have destroyed them along with humanity. In a rare and temporary alliance, the X-Men and their former enemies join forces to take down the alien. The Mutant Master activates a series of automated nuclear missile silos hidden within the base, intending to trigger a global catastrophe before he departs Earth. The battle is a race against time. While the Brotherhood members vent their rage on the alien's robotic guards, the X-Men focus on the silos. Cyclops and Marvel Girl work together to disable the launch codes, while Beast and Iceman physically sabotage the missile engines. The Mutant Master uses his advanced alien weaponry to hold them off, projecting energy beams that can disrupt biological systems. The Professor, finally freed from the mental dampener, engages the alien in a final psychic battle. He discovers that the alien's presence on Earth is a rogue operation, and he sends a psychic signal into space to alert the alien's own race of his treachery. In the climax, the alien's people arrive and retrieve the Mutant Master. The nuclear launch is averted with seconds to spare. The alliance between the X-Men and the Brotherhood dissolves instantly as the villains flee into the night. The X-Men return to the mansion, exhausted but relieved. In Uncanny X-Men issue 39, Story A, titled, Graduation Day, we reach a thematic milestone. The main story involves the X-Men facing off against a new threat, but the most iconic part of the issue is the introduction of their individual costumes. For the first time, the team discards the matching blue and yellow training uniforms in favor of looks that reflect their unique personalities and power sets. Cyclops adopts a more streamlined, dark blue look. Jean becomes Marvel Girl in her green and yellow dress. Beast stays in his athletic shorts. Angel gets his classic red and white look, and Iceman, well, he's still mostly just ice. The change represents their transition from students to independent heroes. The plot involves the team investigating a series of technological thefts across New York. The battle serves as a test drive for their new looks and improved teamwork. The X-Men move with a confidence they didn't have in the earlier issues. We see them handling the criminals with ease, using their powers in more creative ways. Cyclops uses his optic blasts to bank shots off walls, and Jean's telekinesis is shown to be much more precise. The graduation feel is underscored by Professor Xavier's pride in his students. He formally acknowledges that they are no longer just pupils in training, but a professional unit of superheroes. The issue overall is a celebration of how far the characters have come since issue 1. They are no longer the strange teenagers the world feared, they are icons of a new age. The issue ends with the team standing together on the mansion lawn, ready for the next chapter of their lives. Next, we look at Alpha Flight Special Edition Issue 1, titled Weapon X Origins. This special edition provides an essential look back at the formation of Canada's premier super team, Alpha Flight, and its deep ties to the X-Men. The story is framed as a series of flashbacks, detailing how James Hudson, later known as Guardian, was tasked by the Canadian government to create a superhero team to rival the Avengers. This introduces James Hudson, the Guardian. James is the founder and leader of the Canadian super team Alpha Flight. A brilliant engineer and scientist, Hudson created a sophisticated exoskeleton suit that grants him the ability to fly, project concussive blasts, and generate protective force fields. James is defined by his intense patriotism and his unwavering moral compass. He is often seen as the Captain America of Canada, a man who truly believes in the potential of his country. His most significant contribution to the wider Marvel Universe was his role in finding and rehabilitating Logan, providing him with a home and a purpose before he joined the X-Men. James is characterized by his technical genius and his deep love for his wife, Heather. The issue also introduces Heather Hudson. Heather Hudson is a pivotal figure in the history of Alpha Flight and the rehabilitation of Logan. While she initially does not possess superhuman abilities, her intelligence, compassion, and leadership skills are the foundation of the team. Heather is the one who truly connected with Logan after he was found feral in the woods. She is a talented administrator and strategist, often acting as the grounded heart of Department H. Later in her history, she would don her husband's armor to become Guardian herself, but in this era, she is the essential civilian anchor. Her relationship with Logan is one of deep respect, making her one of the few people he truly trusts. A major part of this history involves the discovery of Logan, the man who would become Wolverine. We see the early days of Logan being found in the Canadian wilderness, a wild and nearly feral creature after escaping the Weapon X program. The issue explores the development of the Guardian armor and the recruitment of other original members like Shaman and Snowbird. There is a tense sequence where Logan, still struggling with his memories and his rage, nearly leaves the program, but is convinced to stay by Heather. This backstory is crucial for understanding why Alpha Flight later feels so betrayed when Wolverine eventually leaves them to join the X-Men. The story culminates in the team's first official training session at Department H. By the end of the issue, we see the team ready for their first mission, with Logan standing as their primary operative. Finally, we arrive at Avengers issue 47, titled, In the Hands of Magneto. The paths of the X-Men and the Avengers cross once again in this historic issue. The story begins with Magneto's return to Earth after being taken into space by the cosmic being known as the Stranger. Seeking revenge on the X-Men, he realizes that the most effective way to hurt Xavier is to reclaim his former disciples, Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. The twins have been serving as members of the Avengers, trying to redeem themselves for their past crimes. Magneto arrives at the Avengers headquarters, not with an army, but with a cunning plan to manipulate the twins' lingering sense of alienation and their fear of human prejudice. A massive battle erupts between Magneto and the Avengers, including Captain America, Goliath, and the Wasp. Magneto's power is at an all-time high. He uses the metal of the city itself to pin down the heroes. The issue is a masterclass in power scaling, showing how Magneto can single-handedly take on the world's most powerful teams. During the fight, he appeals directly to Wanda and Pietro, showing them images of mutant persecution and convincing them that the Avengers only tolerate them because of their powers. The tragedy of the issue is the twins' eventual decision. Despite the pleas of the Avengers and the X-Men, Pietro chooses to leave with Magneto. Wanda follows him, heartbroken but unwilling to be separated from her brother. Magneto escapes, having struck a devastating blow to the hero's morale. The issue ends with the X-Men and the Avengers standing together in the ruins of the headquarters, realizing that the war for the mutant soul is far from over. What an incredible sequence of events. We've seen the X-Men grow from a team of teenagers in matching uniforms to independent heroes in their own right. We've seen them face threats from space, from the underground, and from within the heroic community itself. This era established the groundwork for some of the most enduring rivalries and alliances in comic book history. Which of these moments was your favorite? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe as we continue our chronological journey through the X-Men's legendary history. Until next time.